Okay, so picture this. I'm Emily, 32 years old, a graphic designer. Nothing fancy, just your average small town New England life. Quiet, like super quiet. And honestly, that's how I like it. Most days, you'd find me holed up in my little home office, pushing pixels around. But my real escape? That'd be the local library. It's not one of those slick, modern places. Nah, this one's ancient, built like 100 years ago. Creaky wooden floors, high ceilings, shelves that practically groan under the weight of forgotten stories. And the smell? Oh man, the smell. It's this mix of old paper, dust, and something else. Something comforting, like an old blanket. It's my spot, my refuge, the kind of place where the outside world just kind of melts away. I've been going there since I was a little kid, and it still feels like coming home. A routine, almost, a good one. I always gravitated towards the older sections, the ones nobody really bothered with anymore. I love those forgotten books, the ones with yellowed pages and spines that look like they've seen a war. There's just something about their history, you know? Like, what stories did they tell before me? What hands held them? It's a simple fascination, nothing spooky, just curiosity. But here's the thing about that library. There's this one spot in the very back, tucked away behind a towering stack of encyclopedias that nobody ever uses anymore. It's what I always called the forgotten corner. It's right next to where the children's section used to be, before they moved it to the bright, modern side of the building. And yeah, that corner, it kinda gave me the creeps when I was little. I must have been around 7, maybe 8, just a tiny little thing, probably lost in some fairy tale book. I was sitting cross-legged on the floor, my nose practically buried in the pages. And then, boom, just like that, this blast of cold air, right through me. It wasn't like a draft from a window or anything. It was sharper, colder, like someone had opened a freezer door right next to my ear. My skin prickled all over. Then, I swear to God, I heard it. A whisper, clear as day. It called my name. Emily. Low, raspy. My heart leapt into my throat, hammering so hard I thought it would just punch right through my chest. I froze, not daring to move. My eyes darted around the dim stacks, trying to find where it came from. And then I saw it. Just a flicker, a shadow. It seemed to detach itself from the spine of a book on the top shelf, long and thin, and just slide, like water down a window pane. It moved across my vision, quick as a blank, and then it was gone. I don't even remember grabbing my bag. 1 second I was there, scared stiff. The next I was tearing out of that corner, a blur of tiny legs and terrified screams. I ran all the way home, crying my eyes out. My parents, bless their hearts, they just hugged me tight and told me it was just my imagination. Too many ghost stories, kiddo, my dad would say, ruffling my hair. And yeah, I eventually bought it. What else was there? A 7-year-old's brain, right? It was easy enough to pack that memory away, label it childhood prank, and forget about it. Mostly. Anyway, fast forward to now. It was a Tuesday, I think. Overcast, the kind of New England day that just whispers, stay inside. I was in my usual corner, the one I'd long since reclaimed, browsing the history section. My fingers brushed past a thick, dusty tome. It was a local history, a really old one, like from the 1800s. The cover was worn, the corners frayed. It smelled even older than the other books, if that makes sense, like nobody had touched it in decades. The title was something incredibly boring, probably why it was always ignored. "Well, hello there, forgotten friend," I muttered, pulling it from the shelf. "Guess you were just waiting for me to show up, huh?" I carried it over to a table near a big window, where the soft, diffused light always made the pages glow. I opened it up, expecting the usual dry facts about old factories and founding fathers, but then I saw them. Faint, spidery lines of handwritten text in the margins. Yellowed ink, definitely old. My eyebrows went up. Huh, I thought, someone actually bothered to write notes in this thing. My initial reaction was just, man, some people really have too much time on their hands, defacing library property and all. They seemed pretty harmless, just random comments, summaries of paragraphs, that sort of thing. I didn't think much of it. I flipped through a few more pages, scanning the old, brittle paper. More notes. Some were just underlining, some were short sentences. And then I stopped. My eyes landed on a particular passage, describing the library building itself, back when it was first built. Right next to it, scrawled in that same faded ink, was a note. It said, "This old paper smell, it's genuinely lovely. Such a perfect afternoon for reading." I literally just inhaled that exact smell, a deep, contented breath, right before I read that. And I'd just been thinking to myself, man, this is a perfect afternoon for a good book. I snorted, a little laugh bubbling up. Okay, that's just weird, I mumbled under my breath. Silly coincidence. I mean, who doesn't love the smell of old books, right? It's not exactly a unique thought, Emily. I tried to brush it off, to chalk it up to pure chance. But a tiny, unwelcome sliver of unease started to worm its way into my gut. I tried to focus back on the dry history text, but my eyes kept drifting to the margins. A new sensation pricked at the back of my neck. Like, you know that feeling when you just know someone's staring at you? That's what it was. A cold, crawling sensation. I swallowed hard, my mouth suddenly dry. I glanced up. Nothing, just the rows of silent, towering shelves. I tried to go back to the book. Couldn't. The feeling intensified, pressing down on me. I felt watched, not in a creepy human way, but like a thing, an old thing. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw it again. A flicker, a dark smear, like smoke, darting quickly between the bookshelves on the upper floor, right above my forgotten corner. My breath hitched, my head snapped up, my gaze locking onto the spot. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. The shelves stood perfectly still, the books silent. The air was thick, still, almost heavy, but it wasn't the good kind of stillness I usually liked. This was the kind that made your ears strain, trying to catch something that wasn't there. The kind that made the hairs on your arms stand straight up. My heart was pounding, a frantic drum against my ribs. Damn it, I muttered, a little louder than I intended. The quiet of the library seemed to swallow the sound instantly. I ran a hand through my hair, shaking my head vigorously. Emily, you're just reading too many spooky stories. Get a grip, girl. It was just my imagination. It had to be. It always was, right? I tried to convince myself, to push that familiar childhood fear back into its neat little box. But this time, it felt a little different, a little too real. Okay, so picture this. The whole flicker of shadow thing from the other day, I swear I tried to shake it off. Told myself it was the crappy old library lighting, or maybe my eyes just playing tricks on me. Too much screen time, you know? But deep down, that tiny sliver of unease, it just kinda stuck, like a splinter you can't quite dig out. I went back to that book, the ancient local history one, the next day. Call me crazy, but it was like a morbid curiosity. I needed to know if it was just some elaborate prank, or if my brain was finally melting down from too much caffeine and late-night design work. I mean, my childhood memory was years ago. There's no way it was connected, right? I found my usual spot, near the big window. The light was kinda flat today, like the sky couldn't quite decide if it wanted to rain or just stay gray. I opened the book again, my fingers almost automatically flipping to where I'd left off. And there they were, those spidery, faded notes. My heart gave a little skip. I tried to breathe normally. Okay, Emily, calm down, I told myself. It's just a book, written by some old weirdo.
I scanned the page. Another note caught my eye. "The afternoon sunlight from the window," it read, "is quite pleasant." I glanced up, right at the window. The light was gentle today, even with the gray sky. It diffused nicely, making the dust motes dance in the air. I'd actually just thought how nice the light was a split second before I read that note. My stomach did a weird flip. Not quite fear yet, more like, what the hell? This was too specific now. It wasn't just a general comment about old books. This was about my immediate surroundings, my specific moment. I swallowed, my throat suddenly dry.
My eyes darted to the next note. The old paper smell in this library, still the same. A shiver ran down my spine. That distinctive smell, a mix of forgotten stories and decades of dust, it was my comfort, my signature library experience. And someone, long ago, had described it just like I did, right here, right now. My rational brain was screaming, "Coincidence! Just coincidence! Libraries smell the same. Light comes through windows. Millions of people have these thoughts." But another part of me, a colder, smaller part, was just watching, waiting. It felt like I was being set up. I turned the page, slowly. My fingers felt stiff. There were more notes, but these ones, they were different. They weren't about the book's content anymore. They weren't about the general atmosphere of the library. My eyes landed on a line, and my breath caught in my chest. The girl in the faded blue sweater, she looks tired. My head snapped down. I was wearing my favorite blue sweater, the one I practically lived in, the one that had been washed so many times the color had softened to a kind of faded denim. I looked down at my sleeve, then back at the note. My pulse started to hammer in my ears, a frantic drum solo. I touched the fabric of my sweater. It was old. It was blue. It was faded, just like the note said. My stomach twisted into a knot, cold and tight. This wasn't a coincidence. This was too much. My eyes scanned frantically for the next note, almost dreading what I'd find. And there it was. Biting her lip again, Emily. My hand flew to my mouth. I didn't even realize I was doing it. It was a nervous habit, one I'd had since I was a kid, especially when I was deep in thought or feeling anxious. I bit down hard on my lower lip. The metallic tang of blood filled my mouth for a second before I tasted nothing but fear. My eyes were wide, staring at the old faded ink. My chest felt tight, like someone was sitting on it. This wasn't a prank. No one could know that. No one. Unless someone was watching me, right now, or had been watching me for a very, very long time. My head shot up, my gaze sweeping across the vast expanse of shelves, the empty reading tables. Every shadow seemed to deepen. Every book spine seemed to hold a secret. The quiet of the library, usually my refuge, now felt menacing. It wasn't empty. It felt occupied, like 1,000 unseen eyes were drilling into me. The hairs on my arms stood on end. My skin felt clammy. I squeezed my eyes shut for a second, trying to clear my head, trying to make it all go away. This is not real, Emily. You're losing it. I tried to reason with myself, to push it all back into that neat little box of imagination, but the box felt like it had shattered. I forced my eyes open, trembling. My gaze fell back to the book. I had to know. I had to. My fingers, shaking like crazy, turned another page. My breath hitched. The words were scrawled in that same ancient hand, but they seemed to jump off the page, vivid and terrifying. The cold blast from the forgotten corner, the whisper calling little Emily's name. Do you still remember? The book slipped from my grasp, hitting the old wooden floor with a dull thud. The sound echoed, loud and stark, in the silent library. My entire body went rigid.
The air around me suddenly felt heavy, thick with memory. It wasn't a memory anymore. It was a full-blown flashback. I was 7 years old again, tiny, huddled in that dim corner. The sudden, biting cold. The raspy whisper, "M.I." The shadow peeling away from the bookshelf, slithering. The pure, gut-wrenching terror. It slammed into me with the force of a physical blow. My parents' voices, their comforting words. "Too many ghost stories, kiddo. Just your imagination." They were gone, erased. They were lies. Or maybe they just didn't know. Because it wasn't my imagination. It was real. All of it. My chest heaved. I couldn't breathe. My vision blurred, tears stinging my eyes. A choked sob escaped my lips, barely a whisper. I clamped a hand over my mouth, terrified of making another sound. My heart was a wild bird trapped in a cage, flapping desperately against my ribs. No, this can't be. My mind raced, frantic, desperate for an explanation. A rational one. Any rational one. Someone had to have found my childhood diary. Or my parents told someone. No, that was stupid. My parents barely remember it themselves. No one knew.
This was impossible. In a fit of desperate, adrenaline-fueled energy, I scrabbled around on the floor for the pencil I always carried. My hand was shaking so badly I could barely hold it. I flipped to a blank page in the book's front cover, right next to the original notes, and scrawled, messy and angry. "Who is this? Stop messing around!" It felt stupid, childish, but I had to do something. I slammed the book shut, my hands still trembling, and clutched it to my chest like a shield. I stayed there for what felt like an eternity, eyes darting, trying to see something, anything. But the library remained stubbornly quiet, just the oppressive weight of silence and unseen eyes. I somehow managed to make it to the circulation desk. Martha, the head librarian, a sweet old lady who'd been there since forever, smiled at me. "Find anything good, dear?" I forced a wobbly smile. "Yeah, Martha, this one's interesting." I tried to sound casual, but my voice was tight, thin. "Hey, Martha, has anything weird ever happened around here? Like in the old sections, or that corner behind the encyclopedias?" I tried to keep it vague, not wanting to sound completely insane. Martha's smile didn't waver, she just chuckled softly. "Oh, honey, this old place. It's seen its share of weird, I suppose. Old buildings always have their quirks, don't they? Creaky floors, drafts from who knows where. But nothing really strange, just dust and old books." She winked. "Maybe a few playful ghosts of forgotten stories, if you believe in that sort of thing." My heart sank. Nothing. No help there. Just more rational explanations, the ones I'd been trying to convince myself of. I mumbled something about needing to get home, my voice barely audible, and practically ran out the door. The familiar scent of old paper now didn't feel comforting. It felt like a trap. That night, I barely slept. Every creak of my old house, every rustle outside, sent my heart into a frenzy. My mind kept replaying the notes, the lip-biting, the corner. Emily, Emily, Emily. It was like a broken record, loud and terrifying. The next morning, sleep-deprived and on edge, I couldn't resist. I had to go back. I had to open that book. I had to know if anyone had seen my frantic scrawl. If this was really some messed-up prank, maybe they'd leave a snarky reply. Or maybe nothing. Maybe I was just seeing things. I got to the library early, before anyone else. The place was even quieter. The pre-opening hush heavier, more chilling. I almost felt like I was trespassing in a sacred, dangerous place. My hands were clammy, cold sweat trickling down my back as I walked straight to my usual table. I took a deep, shaky breath and slowly, very slowly, opened the old history book.
My eyes went straight to the page where I'd written my desperate plea. "Who is this? Stop messing around!" My breath hitched. Below my scrawled words, in that exact same faded, spidery, ancient-looking ink, was a new line. It looked like it had been there for 100 years, yet it felt freshly written, the meaning screaming at me. "It's just an old friend, Emily. Have you forgotten?" My blood ran cold. My hands started to shake uncontrollably, the book rattling in my grip. My head was spinning. "What the hell?" I whispered, the words barely escaping my throat. "What the hell kind of elaborate prank is this?" My whole body was trembling, a frantic vibration from the tips of my toes to the roots of my hair. This wasn't possible. It wasn't. And then, as I stared at those words, an ice-cold gust of wind hit me right in the face. My hair whipped around me, though every window in the library was firmly shut. The air in the room dropped several degrees, instantly, sharply. My eyes shot up, scanning the aisles. No one, not a soul. Just the towering shelves stretching into the dim upper reaches of the building. My heart was pounding, a deafening drumbeat. Then, at the very end of the longest aisle, right above where the forgotten corner was, I saw it again. That flicker, that dark smear, like a wisp of smoke, a ripple in the air. It darted across the opening between the shelves, quick as a blink, and then it was gone. Just like in my childhood memory, just like the other day. My hands flew to my ears, clamping them shut, trying to block out the silence, trying to block out the whisper that I knew was coming.
No, it's not real. I squeezed my eyes shut, rocking back and forth, trying to make it all disappear, But it was real, so real, and it knew my name, it knew my habits, it knew my deepest buried childhood fear, and now it was writing back to me. I had to talk to Martha. No more beating around the bush. I had to ask her directly about this cursed book, because if I didn't get answers, I was going to scream, and I wasn't sure I'd ever stop. Okay, so remember how I told myself I absolutely positively had to talk to Martha? Yeah, that feeling just took over. After that whole old friend note and the sudden blast of cold air that practically froze my eyeballs, I knew I couldn't just brush it off anymore. My brain was officially in flight or fight mode, except fight felt stupid against something I couldn't even see. So more like flight, but first get some damn answers. My legs felt like jelly, but I somehow dragged myself to the circulation desk. Martha was there, just like always. Her silver hair pulled back in a neat bun, those kind eyes that always crinkled at the corners when she smiled. She was probably wondering why I looked like I'd just seen a ghost, which, okay, maybe I had. I gripped the old history book so tight my knuckles went white, tried to take a deep breath, make my voice sound normal, but it came out all raspy and thin. "Hey, Martha," I started, trying to sound casual, like I was just making small talk. My voice was doing this weird tremor thing. "I just borrowed this old local history book, the one with all the weird stuff written in the margins." Martha looked up from her computer, her smile gentle. "Oh, that one, dear. Is everything all right, Emily? You look a little pale." Damn it, so much for acting normal. I tried to force a small smile. "Yeah, I'm fine. Just a little surprised, I guess. The notes, they're really specific, like super accurate. They talk about the sunlight from the window, the smell of the old paper, even my sweater." My heart was doing a frantic little dance in my chest. I almost spilled the beans about the lip biting and the forgotten corner, but I caught myself. Gotta ease into this, right? Can't just unload all that crazy on her at once. It's like someone was watching whoever read it, And they're really old, aren't they? Like faded ink and stuff. I tried to sound curious, not completely freaking out. It was hard.
Martha chuckled, that soft, warm sound that usually made me feel all cozy and safe. Today, it just felt wrong, like a lullaby sung by something with teeth. "Oh, those notes," she said, waving a hand dismissively. "Honey, those are ancient, from way back when. I remember them vividly." She leaned forward a little, her eyes sparkling with what I usually found charming nostalgia, but now felt unsettling. They were already there when I first started working here, and that was almost 40 years ago now. Can you believe it? We've tried to get rid of that book a few times, actually. Figured no one would ever want it. But it always seemed to find its way back to the shelf. Became a bit of a signature piece, you could say. My blood ran cold. 40 years. My mind was just stuck on those two words. 40 years. She went on, oblivious to the earthquake happening inside my head. "Though, honestly," she continued, a faint frown creasing her brow, "no one's checked it out in donkey's years. Not until you, Emily. Nope, not a single soul. Guess it was just waiting for you to come back." She winked again, that same sweet, unsettling gesture. The world suddenly felt like it was tilting, waiting for me. The words just hung there in the air, a punch to the gut. My carefully constructed world, built on reason and childhood imagination, crumbled right then and there. 40 years, before I was even born. My parents' comforting voices, telling me it was all in my head, they were suddenly distant, hollow. They didn't know. They couldn't have known. If those notes had been there for decades, before my little 7-year-old self even existed, how in the hell could they describe the light hitting my specific window, the smell I always noticed, my faded blue sweater, my nervous lip-biting habit, and God, that corner, the forgotten corner, the whisper, Emily.
The fear, that raw, gut-wrenching terror from when I was 7 years old, clawed its way back up my throat. It wasn't some distant, hazy memory anymore. It was here, right now, and it was 100 times colder, 1,000 times sharper. It bit at me, right behind my eyes, making my vision swim. My hands felt clammy, ice cold despite gripping the book so tight. If it wasn't my imagination, then what the hell was it? That question, that gaping, horrific question, just started eating at my insides. It chomped away at every single rational thought, leaving behind this giant, throbbing void. It left me with this absolutely chilling, bone-deep certainty that something formless and ancient, had been there all along, watching, following, knowing, my whole damn life, and it was still here. I mumbled a quick, "Thanks, Martha," my voice barely a squeak, and practically shoved the book back onto the return cart. I just needed to get away, needed to breathe, needed to run. My legs felt heavy, but I forced them to move, past the shelves, past the reading tables, out into the, thankfully, not-so-quiet town. The sunlight, earlier so pleasant, now felt like a spotlight, exposing me. I made it home in a blur, my heart still thumping like a drum solo gone wrong. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely unlock the door. I threw my bag down, tossed the car keys onto the counter, and just stood there in the middle of my living room, chest heaving. This wasn't real. It couldn't be. No, wait, it was real. Too real. I leaned against the wall, trying to get my breathing under control. My mind was racing, trying to find some logic, some way out, but there was nothing. Just the chilling thought, it knows. It always knew. Then a sudden, horrible thought hit me. The last page. I hadn't looked at the last page. The one where I'd found that chilling, newly written message this morning. My hands, still trembling, fumbled in my bag. I pulled out the book again, my fingers almost automatically flipping to the very end. The last page was usually blank, right? Maybe just a library stamp, a date? But it wasn't blank. Not anymore.
My eyes landed on a new line, right at the bottom, not in the margin. The ink was dark, darker than the other notes, almost black. It looked fresh, horrifyingly fresh, like it had just been written a second ago. The game has just begun, Emily. My breath caught in my throat. My body went completely rigid. I swear the air in my living room, which was perfectly normal a second ago, suddenly dropped a good 10 degrees. An ice-cold gust, exactly like the one in the library, swirled around me. I felt a breath, frigid and foul, ghost across the back of my neck. "Damn it," I hissed, the words barely a whisper. I stood there, frozen, not daring to move. My eyes darted around the empty room, but there was nothing, just the sudden chill, the oppressive quiet. My brain, despite being completely overloaded, immediately jumped to the proof thing. Like, if I could just get a picture, something tangible. My phone was in my hand, still clutched from earlier. I raised it, my hands still shaking, and snapped a quick selfie, trying to get the background. Hoping to catch something, anything, some smudge, some flicker, anything that wasn't just my own freaking out. I lowered the phone, my heart pounding against my ribs, making me dizzy. I looked at the mirror on the wall, the one in the hallway. My reflection looked off. It shimmered, just for a split second, like water. And behind me, in the reflection, I thought I saw it. A dark, shapeless smudge. A shadow, but wrong. It was there, then gone. So fast I almost convinced myself I imagined it. But the feeling was real. My fingers, clammy and cold, fumbled with my phone, desperate to see the picture. I tapped the screen, my eyes glued to the image that popped up. It was just me, looking pale and terrified, my living room in the background. My eyes scanned frantically. Nothing. No shadow, no flicker. Wait. In the far corner of the room, almost hidden by a stack of books and the shadow of a forgotten plant, there it was. Small. So small I almost missed it. A blurry black dot. A smudge. It looked like nothing, but it was there. And it shouldn't be. It was like a little ink stain on the photo, a tiny blemish, but it wasn't ink. It was something, hiding, always.
I gasped, a strangled sound. The phone slipped from my grasp, clattering to the hardwood floor with a sharp crack. My whole body jumped, a jolt of pure terror shooting through me. My heart hammered, a frantic, painful rhythm. "Bastard!" I choked out, tears stinging my eyes. I wanted to scream, to throw something, to just smash that damn phone, smash that damn book, smash everything. But my hands wouldn't move. They were frozen, locked, like they weren't even mine anymore.